what's the point of coming to an event if you can't get anything? So we'll start. I'm gonna give you a short bio of our panelists because they're amazing people in the house. I mean, so I'm going to start on my farthest right. So a minute. We have Brian with us. Brian is, Mark Orina, sorry. So Mark has 4 years in information technology with system administration, IT operations, and architecting cloud infrastructure as a core competency. As a part of his assignments, he has been involved in non-functional requirement analysis, strategy and design, and working alongside developers to deliver application for production. He has strong client communication, business communication, and interpersonal skills to interact with various business stakeholders. He acquired diverse experience while working with various startups in Nairobi, and he's currently working as an associate information officer at Impact Africa Network. And it's notable to note that he's an AWS community builder. So a round of applause. So, sorry. We're going to move on to Nicholas. Nicholas, oops. Nicholas.
David.
So, sorry about that. So Nicholas is accelerating startups in the Middle East, Turkey, and East Africa. He's a public speaker, a mentor, and yes, of course, in the DevOps community. So a round of applause. And he's currently working as an ID&D ambassador, MENA chapter, and a founding member. So round of applause for one of them. To our farthest right, it's Alvin, I believe, Alvin Ndungu. So Alvin is a multi-cloud solutions architect and DevOps engineer who bridges the gap between cloud innovation and community building in Africa's tech ecosystem. As a co-organizer for Open in Africa and CNCF and community management at Nairobi DevOps, he's passionate about fostering knowledge and sharing, driving adoption of modern cloud practices across the continent, with deep expertise spanning cloud computing, infrastructure as code, and DevOps practices. He specializes in designing resilient multi-cloud architectures and automating complex deployment pipelines. His technical foundation includes extensive experience with AWS, GCP, and Azure, complemented by multiple cloud certification, including AWS Comprehensive Aviatrix, multi-cloud networking, and certification. So a round of applause for Alvin. So before they say what DevOps is all about, I think I'll give a quick overview of an non-tech perspective of who a DevOps is. So I'm thinking of it, let's say in the music industry, there's an orchestra conductor, and he ensures that everything runs smoothly. He doesn't write code, he doesn't write the songs, but he always ensures that every single instrument is synchronized and everything. So that's in tech, that is our DevOps, and think of it like a tech handyman. So let's move on to our first question. So how do you define DevOps in the context of cloud native applications? Oh, sorry, hi. I'm sorry, I hadn't seen your name.
I'm Joel. Just allow me to just do a quick intro about myself. I'm Joel. I'm a technical solutions architect at Shinrai Technologies. At Shinrai, we specialize with DevOps. So I'm stepping in shoes of the Timothy Munyao, who is he was the one to represent the team here on the list, but he didn't make it to step in. So I'm stepping on his shoes. Yeah. So I serve at Shinrai technologies, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Amazing. A round of applause. So I'm going to repeat the question. Let's start with the foundations. In your own words, how will you define DevOps in the context of cloud-native applications, and what makes it different from traditional DevOps practices?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way we define DevOps at our organization is basically, the way I've seen from my previous experience is that most customers, when they try to approach the cloud, they think as of a shift and left. Okay, so they are coming from their on-premise setup as they are just to the cloud. So if it's a server that is on-prem and there is an application that is running on that server, they just move the server as is to the cloud. But here at Shinrai, we try to modernize that. We don't do just a basic lift and shift. So we modernize their architectures in such a way that they use microservices, they use serverless, they use automation. In that way, we are able to build a pipeline, right? A CI/CD pipeline that enables them to scale fast. They're able to automate most of their processes and to improve their operational excellence. In that manner, we see them scale fast and with agility. Yeah, so that's how I see DevOps and its benefit when it comes to its implementation. Thank you.
How I see it, and I think I'll just keep it short, especially when you're approaching number one, cloud native applications. What you do normally, a lot of engineers would start from, let me just build my application, right? Let me create my database, let me create maybe my Django or Node.js application, and I'll figure out how to host it later, right? But if you're looking at it from a DevOps point of view and those cloud native, we start from the first conversation you have with the backend engineer and the front-end engineer is you sit down with a cloud person, the DevOps engineer, maybe you also have an SRE, and you figure out, okay, we are going to build this. How are we going to host it, right? How are we going to be able to scale it? How are we going to approach cybersecurity? And lastly, how are we going to cost optimize this? Why this is important, at least for me, especially with cloud native applications, is being able to have it as one of the, in cybersecurity, there's something called shift left, whereby you think of cybersecurity from the get-go. Same thing essentially with DevOps, and that approach is making sure that when I'm building this application, I'm already thinking about how am I hosting it, how is it optimized for the user, and being able to also, I think in a sense, be able to approach it from a DevOps point of view. So for instance, myself in my workplace, definitely I work with backend engineers and a lot of front-end engineers to tell them, this is how we're going to host it, right? Are we going to maybe go towards an EKS cluster, or are we going to do an EC2 instance, and how is it going to work for us, right? So being able to approach it in that sense, I think, is one of the ways to be able to do it. And just to echo him, I don't think it's a lift and shift, whereby it's from your local computer straight into the cloud. There are just certain things we have to kind of tweak to be able to do it. That's how I'd say it, yeah.
So I'll also like to add and say that DevOps goes beyond just tools, because when you say DevOps engineering, a lot of people just go to Docker, Terraform, Kubernetes, but it has to go beyond that. It has to also help the business, because how do you scale, what tools you use also, because the techies are the ones who are interested in the tools, but the C-suite and the stakeholders do not really mind what tools you're using. They just want to return the ROI, and that can only be found in us understanding that it is not just tools. You also have to understand how will this fit into the business at play. So that is what I would like to add. Thank you.
From my side, I would like to continue what you were saying. It's not just tools, it's also processes, it's also best practices, right? One of the best practice that I learned from day one at Amazon is that in the development environment, you can do whatever you want. You can do it by hand, no problem. But as soon as it leaves that environment and goes into UAT or testing environment, and furthermore into production, no hands allowed. Everything needs to be automated, end to end. Because error is human, and the process of DevOps is to deploy over and over and over and over, sort of the same thing, your application, right? And so if you don't want to make odd mistakes that you don't remember whenever you're deploying in any of these two environments, at minimum, automation is your best ally, right? Oh, I forgot a tag, I forgot a port in my security group, I forgot insert whatever reason. So I think that's one of the things that's super important and that DevOps facilitates. The second thing, and I think Werner talked about it this morning, is testing your application, right? As part of the DevOps journey of your code, from development to production, you need to be able to test things in the testing environment. So either you write test scenarios, or use AI maybe to generate those test scenarios and ensure that whatever you're deploying into production with this automation is a go or no-go based on the feedback of these tests. There could be a human in the loop, to echo what has been said also today a lot, and to give the final stamp of approval, this is ready for production. And I think the last thing that I want to talk about when talking about DevOps is that there is your application, but there's also your infrastructure, right? Infrastructure may evolve to abide for scalability, elasticity, security, all of these things that are changing requirements. And again, testing this in UAT or in the testing environment is the best way to do it. And so AI could be your best ally in testing this properly or finding the root cause of the problem properly. So yeah, best practices rather, tools, and you're good to go in my mind.
Oh, that's beautiful, because I'm thinking of it this way. We have both front-end and back-end engineers. I'm going to give an example of a project we did last year with a friend of mine here. We had we did the front-end and we did the back-end. But now coming to incorporate and ensure that the whole app is running smoothly, we had no DevOps to actually tell us what needs to be done, what needs to be integrated so that it can run. So our DevOps are really important in ensuring that all our apps, all our websites run smoothly, and that's just beautiful. So on our panel here, many of us have hands experience on AWS, right? So what would you say are the key DevOps practices that have made the biggest impact in some of your AWS projects, not only on AWS, but also, let's say for Shin-Tribe technologies, like what are the key hands-on experience that have enabled you to become where you are today?
Just to make sure we are on the same page, in terms of DevOps, or just overall knowledge about AWS and its implementation. In terms of DevOps area, or just a general technical experience with AWS?
I think just a general, like, not the AWS only, but also in what you've done before, your project that you've worked on before.
Okay, that's cool. For me, I've worked on quite a number of projects when it comes to implementations on AWS. We've done migrations, we've done modernizations, we've done both microservice architectures, we've done serverless architectures. Actually, one of my recent projects that I'm working with is an EKYC project, an electronic know your customer. So we basically build that entirely with serverless architectures, and we are using best practices for DevOps. So we are automating this with Terraform. And that has saved us a lot of time when it comes, if we need to make changes So we just destroyed the infra, and within few minutes we are up and running again. So when it comes to DevOps, that's one area that I've seen with automation. And then when it comes to scalability, remember that we are building with serverless. So we are using architectures that allow us to scale fast and spend less. So we are again here spending on services that we are using. We are not over provisioning services as opposed of, setting up a big server. So we are using serverless architectures such as Lambda, and automating again with step functions. So we are heavily dependent on microservices here. And I think DevOps comes in as a practice for that, just enabling you to build fast and also save on not only on cost but as well as time. Yeah, thank you.
I'll say two things. One, from the context of I work like in a startup environment whereby cost is a constraint in the sense of you don't have an unlimited budget. And secondly, I'll say it in terms of just my upskilling and how I've grown into the role. So one, I'll start with how I've grown into the role. I think Mr. Vano really mentioned it very well. Anything that's unmonitored leads to unknown costs. But anything that's unmonitored, you don't know, you're kind of like just shooting in the dark. I'll give you an example. Now, for instance, you've deployed your application, it's working perfectly. You've used like a simple step-by-step tool. You've hosted your Node.js application, and voila, it's working and it's doing well. But now you're not able to monitor it. You don't know how many logs per second are there, how many requests are being made, how is it performing, right? The reason why you're not thinking of that, it's an afterthought, right? Your point is to be able to learn the code, be able to host it, and you're a full stack developer. But if you don't look at monitoring, I think that's such a superpower, and any really senior software engineer or senior person will tell you, they can go through the logs and they can tell you what's going to happen. They can even predict and diagnose the problems that you have, right? So that's one thing. That's something that is a game changer for anyone, right? Anything that you have, how can we monitor it better, right? And part of monitoring, number one, is the logs, notifications, right? Because sometimes the only, notification you have is when it's down. But imagine if it's giving you notifications every week, this is how it's performing. And over time, you become more intimately aware of your product and your system. So every time you look at anything, how do I monitor it better? That would be amazing. The second thing is cost. Cost is such a superpower because if you look at it from a point of view as a startup or even as a person, if you've had like an AWS bill that is really huge, being able to understand your cost better and intimately point out that okay, this EC2 instance carrying this number of maybe clients, this is what it has, this is the ROI I'm getting from it, and this is how much it costs. I think that would be really good. Any engineer who's able to do that, think from a financial perspective and optimize, because it forces you to essentially optimize what you have, build better, and be able to make it more reliable. And last but not least, in terms of monitoring and cost, I think one of the biggest, impediment of people are like, hey, I need to get credits, I need to do this, and stuff like that. Credits are really amazing, right? But it's not sustainable in the long run. I don't know how many have gotten like an AWS bill that was huge, but being able to think sustainably, I think that would also be really good. A sustainable approach to your architecture, essentially. I think to just cover it up, yeah.
For me, the one thing, again, this is going to sound like a repeat, but the one thing that I learned over my tenure at Amazon around the DevOps that helped a lot, myself and customers included, is automation for two good reasons. Number one, whenever you automate things, you're essentially documenting what you're creating, right? You're documenting it with code. With AWS CloudFormation, it may be YAML or JSON. Now, Werner talked about this morning a specific point, which is whenever you hire somebody new, he or she needs to understand why is your stack this way? Why is your code running this way, right? And this documentation can definitely help. Nowadays, with tools like Infrastructure Composer, you can feed in the CloudFormation template and it will build a diagram of what you're building with this template. So that's additional documentation, right? And then the second thing that I want to talk about, and to echo what you mentioned on cost, is that you need to tag the resources that you're creating, right? Tags are like essential. If you're running multiple environments, or if you have multiple owners in your organization, you can add a tag that says owner and a value, right? Or environment and a value. And when you look at cost in particular, you can filter down by owner, or by environment, or by application, or whatever tag you're using. And so when you're asked this question, why is the AWS bill so high? You can point at the culprit and say, okay, we're going to optimize this. Whether it is on sustainability, whether it is on shutting down instances. Side note here, I helped a customer in Nigeria 2 weeks ago. They saved 61% by turning off their UAT environment at night and during weekends. 61%. That's a lot of money, almost 2/3 of their bill, gone. So tags help you locate a bunch of things, cost, but also problems with cost, and also locate owners and eventually link it to documentation or to other things that are super, super important. And so automation helps you run all of this. It's just a few more lines, tags, owner, so-and-so, environment, blah, 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 application name, whatever. Whenever you're building things with CloudFormation, CloudFormation also adds tags. This is part of whatever stack I created on what date from which user. Fantastic. But use that. It's going to help you a lot when you're optimizing for cost, for compliance, for a ton of things.
Okay, so for me, it boils down to documentation. How many of us love reading documentation? Personally, I don't love reading documentation at all, but you have no other option but to rely heavily on documentation, because 8 hours of debugging can save you 10 minutes of reading documentation. So I stopped fighting documentation, and I started reading the documentations on, let's say, tools, or maybe AWS released something new. My first, let's say, my first intuition when AWS released something new, no documentation, just jump in, debug for 10 hours, then finally give up and go back to the documentation. So documenting has really helped me grow a lot. So I document heavily nowadays. Any bug I catch, document. Anything, documentation. Yeah.
That's really beautiful, because I mean, sometimes all this can be tedious. It's really important, I mean. So on to our third question. We hear about breaking silos, working in a team, but at times it becomes very hard to work in a team, honestly speaking, because from a personal experience, at times I prefer working alone, but oof, no man is an island. So from your experience, what strategies have actually worked to improve collaboration between DevOps and the security teams? Like, what are you doing that we need to do? So, yeah. Yeah.
So for me, the first thing that I usually tend to like doing is to know beforehand who is in charge of what, so that we reduce the back and forth of the DevOps team has to request something from the security team. So beforehand, it is good to know that the security team owns this and the DevOps team owns this. So that, because the whole idea of having DevOps is to streamline the business process itself. So without having that beforehand, we fall back to always arguing and calling whoever. And for most organizations, I can say there's no that run book that is there for, in case of this, let's call this. That should be the first thing that I usually do. We set up ownership so that we move to production really fast. Yeah.
For me, one of the cool things about DevOps, again, as I mentioned, is best practices. Anybody heard of stand-up meetings? By quick show of hands? Stand-up meetings are one of my favorite things in DevOps practice, because that way, within 10 minutes or so, people get tired of standing up, of course, but also within 10 minutes, you get decisions acted quickly. You know the state of things, you know what you have to do for the day or the week, or even the sprint, and you can solve things really, really fast. It also, bouncing back on what you said, allows you to identify quickly owners or assign owners. In Amazon, we have a rule. You call it, you own it. So usually the stand-up meetings are really efficient. And so that led me to, really embrace this culture of stand-up meetings as part of best practices. I think you should too. It's a really efficient way to move forward.
I think for me, what I've learned, I think this is like not a revelation per se, but something I think we should do a bit more. Beyond stand-up meetings, we normally have like unblockings, or mostly if you're blocked, we have like a senior engineer we go to and, hey, say, this is kind of what's, I'm stuck here, how do I fix it? And mostly it's when I'm stuck, right? But if I have it, especially with my engineering lead, who's really, really good, for me, I think we do more just, what am I working on currently? This is what I'm working on, and I just explain and walk through the whole thing, kind of a stand-up, and mostly he can now tell me what are the assumptions that I've made, right? Especially in terms of how I've approached, like I've looked at the documentation, I'm still opinionated in terms of what I'd want to be able to set up. So as much as I have the documentation, I still have like, a way that I'm gonna create this Docker containers, I'm gonna orchestrate them like this. This is how my YAML file will look like, and that's it, right? So he looks through it. There's nothing quite wrong with it, but when he goes through it and he can tell me, this is how you're thinking about it, let's reorient to something else. Then I can be able to even save time in terms of the 5 bugs I was gonna get in my next like sprint or something like that. And it's really refreshing to be able to get his point of view and be able to now start, interrogating the assumptions that I've made, essentially. So I think that's been an amazing way. So every time you're building something, as much as not stuck, go to a senior engineer, someone within your organization, someone you know, and just walk through what you're doing, right? Because mostly you assume, I already know this, I've read the documentation, I'm good to go. But you still have the opinions that you have, and being able to approach it from that perspective would be really amazing. Same thing with like cybersecurity or, for instance, any other team. Just go, rather than being only talk when you are stuck, just go through this is what I'm doing. They can tell you the assumptions you've made, and it can really help you as a team to be able to at least understand the opinions that you have or the biases that you have, especially that translates into your code and your architecture, essentially. Yeah.
That's great. And I believe, again, I set up the foundation of it very well. It's about ownership, okay? So what we do with my team is we identify, we call it single-threaded leadership, whereby from each team we identify key owners of that particular project that we're building. And so that way we reduce the number of interactions that we have to send, the number of emails that we have to send to each other. And then, so when we are meeting up in the next stand-up or the sprint, we actually know what you're coming to speak about, right? So once we have a team lead from the security side and a team lead from DevOps side, now each team lead is able to speak with their team members and getting feedbacks very fast, since they are interacting very closely with, and then now they are able to pass what is required from their side to the security team in efficient and fast as possible. So yeah, thank you.
It is something will just not apply in the industry only, but I'm thinking of a scenario of, let's say you have a group assignment, you like 10 people, and there's a group leader, and you don't know who's gonna do what. So knowing who does what question or what role will be really important in ensuring that work is delivered efficiently. So before we give like a few questions to our audience. If you are starting a DevOps transformation in a small team today, what will be your first 3 steps to set them on the right path? Like, I want to start a DevOps small team, but I don't know how to. So what will be the first 3 steps that I should take?
First 3 steps.
Yeah.
Towards building a DevOps team. Okay. So I'm not from a development background, but I'll try to state this from my experience. Okay. So first, I think you need to find a stack. Basically, DevOps is about building stuff. So you need to find a good stack and the right technologies that you want to use as part of your DevOps pipeline, right? So the next thing that you need to find is you need to empower your team with the right tools that they need to have. You need to empower them with empower them with skills, not only just the tools. Okay, you need to give them the resources that they need to study, right? So you need to provide the resources so that they can equip themselves better and also be able to utilize the tools that are available. And thirdly, basically is give them a chance. Don't they know what they're doing. Basically, when you bring them on board, they know what they're coming to do. So just give them a chance, a platform. They will fail at first, yes, but give them chance to build their skills. And yeah, I believe with time they will be able to perform and deliver. Yeah, those are basic 3 things for me.
For me, the 3 things. Number 1 is documentation. That's the first thing that we'll be doing. We'll, instead of going either opening up VS Code, trying to create, an Ansible or a Terraform, code base essentially, or just one of them. I'd start from just drawing it out and making sure that we do that more before we start doing the code, right? I think that would be really amazing. So documentation and visual representation of what you're doing. The reason why that will be important is, number 1, you start understanding the use case better rather than looking at, oh, okay, my code is really running well, my pipeline is, kicking ass, but forgive my French, but being able to really visualize and have that business case, essentially. Secondly, I think for me, if I'm to build a DevOps team, I think we'd do more, I think we'd be more open-minded. I think Verna really mentioned this quite well. Uninterrogated successes, I can't remember what he said. Just because we've been doing this like this is like the wrong way to put it. I don't know what he said specifically, but just because you've been successful does not mean that's what we should be doing all through, right? So we do more podcasts, for more events, and being able to just understand what other companies are doing and how they're looking through that. It's super important because the more you drink your own Kool-Aid and figure out that, yeah, we're the superstar team, I think it would be really amazing to do that. So it doesn't have to mean we have to either go to a solutions architect at AWS. They already have amazing resources out there. Or for instance, we don't have to get a consultant outside to be able to do this. But once we see those gaps, we're able to do more towards just building ourselves and bettering ourselves. Lastly, what's the one thing I'd do? I'd say give people more ownership, not of production, but just let them break certain places and, have fun with maybe certain UAT environments or dev environments, essentially, so that they can really understand and, be empowered to be able to, push to production at some point or even maintain bigger applications. Thanks.
All right. So maybe I'll do something a little different than what you said. I'll tell you what not to do, the 3 things not to do if you're building a DevOps team. The first one is do not give the keys to the castle immediately, meaning no access to production immediately, access to dev, yes, and UAT maybe read-only. That way, this whole learning experience is going to be super interesting because you get to fiddle with things without destroying production or UAT. The second thing that you should not do is to be too lean or too loose on security. Security is rule 0. Before even doing anything, security needs to be on the top of your mind for compliance, for just the company itself, right? Security is super, super important, and often it is underlooked in the sense that, oh, you need access to this? No problem, I'll make you admin. Don't do that. Things may happen, and things have happened by experience. And then I think the last thing, to echo what you said, is don't, I would say, limit your teams with experimentation. People need to experiment. People need to understand by themselves why this is not working. Maybe reading the documentation would help in some cases. So documentation is super important, like you said, but it's important to make mistakes so you understand what are the consequences of those mistakes, right? And learn to not make those mistakes in the future. Because if you don't learn, you're gonna keep repeating the same process over and over again without knowing. So experimentation is super important. Don't limit that stuff, please.
So mine will be a bit different because it touches on the human aspect of things, because you might have the best team at hand, but they cannot collaborate, they cannot talk, so how will you move anything? So before even the documentation and security, as the lead, I also have to give my team a conducive environment to also ask questions and make mistakes, because the human aspect is the most important part of it all when you're building the team. So that is the one that I think for me will be a priority. Then we can move on to the other steps. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's beautiful because I'm thinking of it, let's say you're running a small store or something, or you're starting a small business and you have 2-3 employees and you have a good plan and everything, but number one, they can't talk, like they don't know how to relate with each other. That store won't run at all. And say you've given them so much freedom, so much leniency, and they just do what they want to do. Do you think that store will run? No. So it's just a system of collaboration and ensuring the right amount of freedom, not too much freedom, and not limiting them too much, and just giving them. Let's say the team be open-minded, like be open to ideas, let them experiment. I'm gonna give like 3 questions to our audience, because without you, we wouldn't be here. So.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nelson. I want to ask a question to Mark. As a DevOps engineer, when is the best time to make a decision when to Dockerize an application? I know it's not all applications that need to be Dockerized. When do you want to build a Kubernetes cluster or build that manifest? So what best practices or the decision that help you to maybe containerize the application? The other question is maybe what is your perspective on SRE with AI? Because that is another thing that is coming up. Thank you.
So I'll start with the SRE because I'm also interested in integrating KGent to the cluster so that it can also help me with the SRE. Your other question was about knowing when to containerize. So I'll give you the best answer that you'll get from any solutions architect or engineer is that it depends. Because it depends because not all applications should be Dockerized even if they can be Dockerized, because you also have to account for costs, as we've all said. So you have to understand, does this really meet the cost benefits for our business before moving to Dockerize your application? So I would say it depends. Yeah. Oh, for the SRE, I mentioned Kagent, so I don't want to speak much on it because I'm also doing experiments on it, but it's going very well because the LLM itself can do healing for you. Let's say it finds misconfiguration, it can configure that for you. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is from a beginner perspective. So like in the DevOps field, like there's a lot of tools. So like for somebody starting to learn, so if I can give an example, like for the CI/CD, there's a lot like Jenkins, GitHub Actions. So can somebody learn the legacy ones, or should I learn the latest ones? Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I think for me, I'm old school in the sense of when I started even doing CI/CD and just understanding it, I started with Jenkins. I don't use it on a day-to-day, but the UI is not the best, but it really helps you understand the fundamentals and debugging. Because Jenkins is a pain when you're starting off. All right, it's a pain, but over time, once the pipeline goes through, you know how it goes, like the logs, that turns green, right? Once you see it go through the next step, you'll be really happy. But definitely, you'll have read a few Stack Overflow, or you'll have really talked to Claude or whichever other LLM that you're using or Gen AI tool that you're using. So I would say learn the legacy applications first. The reason why it's important is it's a bit harder. It's a tall learning path, but once you really understand it, you can take it from GitHub Actions to GitLab to code pipeline and all the other ones. Sometimes being able to, it's too easy, sometimes there's certain things you miss out on, right? But also, sometimes when Jenkins is a bit too hard, you can go, definitely try the other ones, get some mojo, then come back to it, essentially, right? So in a sense, it depends, but definitely go for the hard ones, because over time, it'd be easier for you to do the other ones, essentially. So do legacy first, at least from my end, yeah. Hopefully that's good.
Okay, my name is Emmanuel, and Nelson is my partner in crime. So I guess my question has to be directed to the gentleman over there. How do you ensure you don't introduce complexity when you're using microservices architecture? Because as a developer, you end up introducing complexities that can add hindrances to your development journey.
So again, it depends. Because everything that you're also building, remember that it costs money for the business. So, and also you have to understand the kind of complexity and the technical depth that is there within the team. So you first have to understand what technical depth do we lack within the team. Then you also need to understand what cost impact does it have for the business. Because like I said, the C-suite guys and the stakeholders do not really care what technology you use. They just want things up and running. That is from my experience. So complexity falls to you as the developers, as the engineers in the team. You're the ones to make that choice, but remember it has to be tied with the business itself. Yeah.
I can compliment on that answer. also remember someone has to maintain it from the code side, but also from the ops side. It needs to run, right? You said it needs to run. So if it's too complex to keep running or to maintain as code, as developer, and usually you start, when you start writing a function or when you start, building things and you're like, ooh, no, this looks like I'm going too fast or am I taking a shortcut that's going to be complex to handle later on. That's usually a really good sign. You need to stop, go back to the drawing board and implement or correct and implement, yeah? But you need to maintain it from a code perspective and you need to maintain it from an operational perspective. Those two things usually are great allies when it comes to detecting when you're going the wrong direction. Does that make sense?
Okay, due to time, we'll not allow more questions for the panel. So I'll just give each of the panelists, it's more of a question plus a closing remark, a minute each. So advice to beginners who are starting DevOps and the failures and lessons learned along the way. What will you tell me as a beginner in DevOps? What will you tell me to really do?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question, Bridget. So as a beginner, what I would advise is don't stop learning. Keep learning, especially when it comes to the technical bit of it, not just the knowledge, okay? So you learn the knowledge first, of course, and then now try and implement what you've learned already. Go build something actually it's a business need that is required, right? Let's say, for example, you have a small application that you've built. Okay, so for example, you've learned how you're able to auto-scale a service on AWS. So what I would advise is go and build a solution that serves that purpose. Go build spin EC2, put it in an auto-scaling group, put it in a load balancer, let us scale, push traffic and see whether it actually scales. That's how you build technical experience. As long as you're not building something, I guarantee you, you're going to have a really hard time when you put in a position whereby you're making these kind of decisions. So what else I've learned is you actually need to be in this kind of setups, this community. Community is the only one that is going to support you when you really, really feel low. I know sometimes yes, you have the knowledge, you have the certifications, yes, but speaking from experience, it's hard to get a role out here and perform that. So what I would advise is don't wait until you are called to a position. You can start a podcast or a YouTube and showcase your skills that you have. Build a portfolio on LinkedIn or anywhere else about what you've learned and the kind of skills that you have. So portfolio and building technical expertise, I think that's a good position to put yourself in. Thank you.
I'd say the first thing is definitely join a community. The reason why that's important is it makes learning easier in the sense of, yes, you can be able to learn alone. You could probably, do a whole 8 weeks course and finish it and get that certification. But beyond that, you'd love to see what other approaches people are using. Because once you get that certification, probably you'd find, like, for instance, in a month, 5 people have the cloud, the solutions architect associate exam. All of them have certifications, but there's a difference between all those 6 people. One person really understood the content and just was able to pass the exam. Someone else has done the portfolio, he's created a whole portfolio, done the labs and all those things. So being able to open up and seeing that would be amazing for you and to be able to learn more. It enriches your learning. Secondly, I think the other thing that I'd say if you're a beginner, you should do. Number one is go to the Cloud Native Foundation website. There's a lot of resources to be able to learn there. Don't wait until maybe you see a job application and they're telling you this is what we're using and all that. Just go look at the different open source projects that are there, look through and just learn on one of them. Secondly, I'm forgetting the website where there are a lot of labs for AWS. I don't know, it's not AWS Labs, I'm forgetting the name. Sorry? Skills Builder, thank you. Yes, AWS Skills Builder. Just do them over and over again. Try new ones, try all the other core projects to be able to do. There's, I think, one currently on arcade games. Try those ones out. I think that would be really important. Which other website would be amazing? Those are the ones that come top of mind, Karen, sorry? AWS Educate also, yes, that would be really good. There are a few other websites that you should just bookmark them and every other week go through them, look at what they're doing, and yeah, have fun with it essentially, yeah.
All right, I'll be super quick, just maybe rebound on what you said. Community, we're here today because of the community and for the community. So be part of the community and learn from each other, super important, and don't be afraid to ask questions, right? There's no stupid questions. Everybody started from somewhere, someday. Number two, working on open source project, fantastic idea. Definitely a way to get familiar with the code, maybe doing code reviews or just translating the app. That's an easy one. And that way you get access to the code, you get access to the developers, you can ask questions, super easy stuff. Build side projects could be an interesting one as well. A side project that fits in the free tier could be very interesting for AWS. And then, yeah, build a compelling LinkedIn profile, right? Whenever you apply, more and more these days, apply with LinkedIn is a feature, it's a thing, and it filters on keywords. So build a compelling LinkedIn profile. That's all for me.
So I'll add that the term beginner does not really sit well with me because it is just you who has not yet tried. And for me, I believe that doing things the hard way and actually going into projects is the best way to start because it's the same way as learning to swim from YouTube. So impossible. So that's for me. Do the technical things, then progress from there. Yeah, thank you.
That was a beautiful discussion, if I do say so myself. So thank you to our panelists because we've unpacked from security to culture to collaboration, and just that DevOps is not all about just behind the technical aspect of it, but also working with people. So it's been a beautiful discussion, and thank you to our audience for sitting through it. And yeah, let's continue building a community together and let's grow together. Thank you.